Okay, a couple more questions. Who is your favorite character? It's honestly pretty narcissistic if I say Bullseye, considering that's the alter ego that I played when we were kids. So, aside from the obvious, I always really like Beat the Bane, which is probably a little weird considering I don't use him much. Um, he's just completely good, even though he probably has the worst circumstances of anyone. Um, he always seemed noble to me. White Wolf asked the question at one point of what if Beat the Bane had been born first. That's hard to say. If Beat the Bane had been born first instead of Cruel Thor, like how things might have been different. And I think that's kind of interesting to think about. He's just completely noble, and I think he's kind of understated a lot, which is obviously something that I kind of did on purpose. Without giving away too much spoilerage, he does come up again, and he becomes very important in book 4, which is obviously the end of the series. I really love what happens with him and how much it turns out that he's mattered all along, and I kind of did cry with what I did with the end with him, so I guess we'll just kind of leave it at that. This is my favorite question. What is the one question that you think is important that nobody ever asks? And that would be, who are the Magi? When I first originally wrote these books, after people read book 1, and nobody asked me that question, I thought, like, oh, is this really just obvious who they are? But then people read book 2 and were, like, completely surprised to learn things that I revealed there. So I think that that's really important, and you kind of see becomes kind of the point of their overall continuing mission from book 1 through book 4, but once books 2, 3, and 4 go much more together, so I think that once in book 2 you kind of learn about the Magi, you understand where the story is you kind of understand where the story is going from there until the end, and that because they're that important. Yeah, that's good enough on that. Is there any significance to the fact that Bullseye and Tigress both have powers accessing the space dimension? Do Rave and White Wolf have powers we haven't seen yet? Unless that's a spoiler. It is significant, and I think that in book 2 you kind of pretty much get the whole answer on why Bullseye and Tigress have different levels of strength in their abilities. The power in the space dimension, you do know what it is by book 2. And as far as Rave and White Wolf go, they don't have powers that we haven't seen yet, because there's a very specific reason why Tigress and Bullseye both have the strength that they do. Okay. When abduction possesses somebody, is that an automatic death sentence? Can a host survive a short period of possession? As I kind of was talking about just now with Beat the Bane, for some people, it's an automatic death sentence. For some people, like Beat the Bane, who have more strength than others, they can survive during the possession. Spoilers are hard. It's an automatic death sentence for most people, though, and I think that's why he's so feared on Earth. Is, he can take you at any given time whenever he feels like, and I think it's kind of interesting to, when book 1 ends, there's a lot of just focus on Cruel Thor left, and oh yeah, and he took Beat the Bane. But I kind of, it ends up really where abduction is actually the scarier of the two of the bad guys left standing. Yeah, I won't ruin anything more with that, but it is kind of interesting to keep in mind, the Warriors and everyone else doesn't know what becomes of Beat the Bane. They all kind of just assume that he's dead because abduction took him, and that does become important eventually. Okay, last question for now. As of book 1, have we seen all of the Kota prophecies, or are there more to come? We have seen all of the old prophecies from the Kota. So when Trock in the End has that prophecy that we haven't seen before, that is the last of the earthly Kota prophecies. So they do keep in mind, though, they do reappear later as important.